Hey y'all, welcome to this week's show. Um, what a week it has been. What a week it has been. I mean, here I was last week warning y'all about war with Iran and potential terrorist attacks, and within a few days, everything's world peace. Well, gotta finish this crap in Ukraine and Russia, and it's really bad. I mean, as you know, my best friend is Ukrainian and probably no longer with us, so. Um, It's not as good a thing as things could be, certainly, but better than they were a week ago. Better than they were, what, 3 weeks ago when we thought we were going to have war between Pakistan and India, two countries with nuclear weapons. I mean, that's pretty big. So, wow, what all has happened? Well, I can tell you personally, here in North Carolina, Senator Tom Tillis just said he would not seek re-election. That is a very good thing. He was probably the second worst in all of the Senate in either party. The complete flaming jackass stole his seat from John Rhodes, took a lot of money from people that I wouldn't take money from, and don't think he should have either, and became a senator and has been nothing but a sellout. Um, he took, I guess, what used to be Jesse Helms' seat, and I knew Senator Helms. He was a very good man. I could call Senator Helms, and we could have a conversation. Me and nobody, teenage 20-year-old something kid. I call up Senator Helms. Hey, Senator Helms, what do you think about, this issue? How are you going to vote on this bill? And the man, the legendary Senator Jesse Helms, treated me with respect and kindness, and would talk to me for inordinate amounts of time. He knew my grandfather, so I did have a family connection, and I did, well, I did a little work with him toward the end of his life, and what a good, solid, genuinely nice, kind, good man, a true servant of the people. I called Tom Tillis's office one time and said, there's a bill coming up in the Senate. I'd like, as a voter, as a constituent, could you ask Senator Tillis to vote against it? And the person started screaming and cussing at me, literally. I mean, I've never encountered. I've spoken with people in all levels of elected office. I have spoken with people in all political parties. I have never experienced anything like that before. And I mean, to the point that Tillis's chief of staff called me back to apologize because somebody in their office was so rude to me. I mean, well, that wouldn't have happened had I not called the I guess the district office and said, "Look, you got to get rid of this person. This is unacceptable." Well, I got an apology, but that was Tom Tillis's attitude toward his constituents, and that was reflected in his staff. And we got a saying here in North Carolina: "Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you." That means don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. And good riddance to pure rubbish. He was nothing more than a bought and paid for by the Chinese. That's what it comes down to. Tom Tillis, worst politician in my lifetime from any of the 5 states I've lived in, and especially. So, yeah, big week, right? Another big thing that happened this week, Facebook kicked me off again. This time I've been permanently banned. No idea why. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I have no idea why. What I posted on my Facebook was my podcasts and articles, and interacted in a couple of groups. Didn't one friend on Facebook that we did interact with, and they sent me a message last night saying I have violated their community standards. Well, you may remember if you've listened to this show for any time. Over 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago now, I was kicked off of Facebook. I was a very, what you might call an influencer on Facebook. I had a group called How to Get Out of the Rat Race and Live on, what is it? Live on $10 a week? I think that's right. It's a George Herder book. That title comes from an old George Herder book. And it was all about, homesteading and self-sufficiency and all that. And I think, my word, what I have 50,000 members and friends that, I was kind of a big deal on Facebook. And I had the temerity to say that I thought the COVID virus came out of a lab in Wuhan, China. And I was accused of being a racist. I'm not sure what the racial aspect of that is. China does happen to be a country in which Chinese people live. If I had said it came out of France, would I have been racist against the people of France? I don't know. It was just stupid. And I was kicked out for 5 years. This January, they let me back in. I got basically no engagement. Facebook is basically dead. I mean, it's not what it used to be. And last night they kicked me off. Now, why does that matter? Well, it matters because what engagement I did get, and there was, when I say engagement, there was no interaction with people. But a lot of people liked the videos I was posting on YouTube, and Facebook was actually driving my YouTube videos. So, y'all know I give everything away for free. You don't have to pay to hear this podcast. Every week, if you're signed up to my free Substack newsletter, you get the podcasts, you get articles, you get YouTube videos, my Herbal Medicine 101 series on YouTube. I give it all away for free. It is 100% optional to pay for my Substack newsletter. Several people do. I'm very grateful for them. Y'all, I don't even know, hundreds of you every year buy my books. That's how I make my living. Well, YouTube videos are also part of that. And YouTube had me kicked off for 4 years, so who knows. But if I can reestablish my presence on YouTube, I can start making a little money that way too, which would be a very good thing. I believe it's my mission to teach people about herbal medicine and the old ways of living and survival and skills and all that. But I can't survive without you, my listeners, my readers, the people who buy my books, the people who subscribe to my Substack newsletter, the people who watch my YouTube videos and subscribe to that. And Facebook was one of the main ways I was getting views on YouTube. And I have no idea what happened. More than likely, somebody took an issue with my politics or my religion, and they put in a complaint. Facebook never told me. They said, "You have violated our community standards." And I'm like, what? I haven't even said anything controversial in a while. Maybe last week's podcast pissed somebody off when I said that liberalism is a mental disorder. That's probably it. What are you going to do? So anyway, if you're listening to this podcast and you like the show, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. The link will be right on the show notes, or you can look me up, Judson Carroll, on YouTube. You can look for the Southern Appalachian Herbs podcast. Basically, I have to get up to 500 subscribers and 3,000 hours of watched videos to monetize that once more. And I'm almost there on subscribers. Need a lot of help on those watch videos. So even if you just want to, like if you listen to this now and you're listening to the podcast, you're on Spreaker, you're on Spotify, you're on one of the big platforms, Apple, whatever you are. The same podcast is over on YouTube. So if you want to turn this one off today and go click on the podcast on YouTube and listen to it there, that'll help me out a lot, actually. But what will help me out more than anything is to share my work. It's podcasts, books, articles, whatever. Share it with your friends. It means a lot to me to try to reach as many people as possible to help. I mean, just like I said, I give everything away for free, but it also means a lot to me to reach the largest audience as possible to make a living. Yeah, I mean, I got to put food on the table just like anybody else. So, anyway, y'all, let's get into the herb for the week. You may notice I'm a little nasally. I don't know. I picked up. I don't know. I can't tell if this is an allergy. I'm out of town, and maybe just an allergy being in a new environment. I broke a tooth a few weeks ago. It's been infected off and on. It really could have something to do with it because it's kind of like aching in my jaw again. But I think the tooth has actually died. So, but I may have a little bit of infection in the lymph nodes. But let's talk about a really good herb that's actually really good for such conditions. And if I can spot one down here, I may go try to harvest some, and it is juniper. Juniper's not that hard to find. In North Carolina, we have our native juniper. That's the Juniperus virginiana, the Virginia juniper, which is actually a true juniper, but it's usually called eastern red cedar. It's not a true cedar, it's a juniper, but anyway, people call it cedar. We've got tons of them that have been naturalized here. I mean, I wouldn't even try to describe them all or give you the names. We got people use them in landscaping. A lot of times it's like a low ground cover, but it's actually a shrub. And it can be a tree. In fact, a lot of the junipers, especially the eastern red cedar, so-called, is a tree. And wonderful wood, very aromatic. That wood helps keep bugs and mice out of your clothes. I mean, you can line a drawer with it. It can be used in cigar humidors. Very, very nice wood. And it has cones. Now, those cones look like berries. They're little round balls. And they're blue, and they get real dark blue, like almost dark navy blue when they're ripe. And those cones are considered to be juniper berries. And my word, they've been used in herbal medicine from time immemorial. Galen said that the juniper berry cleanses the liver and kidneys and thins thick viscous juices. That means mucus. And for this reason, they are mixed in with many health medicines. So, yeah, that's Galen. I mean, that's what, ancient Rome. Juniper has been used, I mean, in Babylon, Syria, Samaria, Israel, Egypt, China, certainly. Yeah, I mean, as far back as mankind goes, we've had an affinity for the juniper tree. The wood is very pretty, and that wonderful scent, and the berries, so-called, they're actually cones, are really good for our health. Now, the only thing about it is they can irritate the kidneys. So you can't have large amounts of juniper berries or use them for an extended period of time. What I normally do, I'll be out hiking. I used to walk my dog every day. He's gone. But anyway, whenever I passed a tree and there were juniper berries, I'd grab 3 or 4 and eat them. That's really the best way to use juniper. in herbal medicine, we always make teas and tinctures and decoctions and infused oils. Yeah, you can do that. Sure. Best way to enjoy, or best way to get the health benefits of juniper and enjoy them actually, grab just a handful and eat them. I mean, and I don't mean a big handful. I mean like, 5 or 10. Now, what's more enjoyable than eating a few juniper berries? Cooking with a few juniper berries. Juniper is so good, especially with fatty meats or anything with a slightly gamey taste. Juniper's fantastic. I mean, juniper berries have been included in especially meat dishes, but also sauerkraut. And maybe we'll get into a little bit of that here in a minute. But yeah, juniper's really excellent with sausage. I mean, it's a very, I guess what I would consider like a German flavor. It's something I grew up on, and I like it. What's even better than cooking with juniper? Infuse it in some vodka and make gin. Yes, gin is nothing more than vodka in which juniper berries have been steeped for a couple of weeks. And yeah, you get the sweetness, you get that piney scent, you get that really. So you're never going to buy a better gin than you can make. Now, of course, you can put many other herbs and even vegetables into to gin. So long as your juniper berries are your base flavor. Cucumber is very common. Rose petals are fairly common. You can put just about any botanical in a gin and make a really, like I said, a much nicer beverage than you're ever going to buy in the store. And you think about it, um, what's a decent quality gin that comes to mind? Decent quality, and I don't mean the cheap, bottom shelf stuff. Uh, whew, golly, there's several actually. Many of them are imports from England because it's the British who invented gin. There's one on the tip of my tongue, and it's not coming to me right this minute, but it's a quite good gin that's a decent price. And I mean like, I don't know, $25 a bottle. So I mean it's a little more pricey than say a bottle of vermouth from the grocery store, which is also a great herbal option. But you know, you can make with cheap vodka that's half the price, or a different liquor. You can use brandy if you want to. It's not going to taste like gin, but it'll smell like gin. And if it's a clear brandy, it will pretty much be like a sweet gin, actually. But okay, so you can get cheap vodka. But it's sort of a decent quality. You won't want something that's going to, give you a headache or something. But a decent quality, and you can go out and for free pick a handful of juniper berries, toss it in there, and you're going to have a craft gin is what they call it. And you can add other things to it as well. And it's going to be like, I mean, it would win an award sat next to probably the best bottle on the shelf. And there are different ways of making gin. You can just infuse it, which means put the herb in the bottle, let it sit for a week to a month, and it's infused. In a distillery, what they usually do, they have a complex distillation system, and there's this little compartment in the well, what we would call it in the Appalachians would be the neck of the steel, basically where the top of the vessel comes up, and there's a coil of it used to be a coil of copper. Now they usually use column steels, and there's the word fractional distillation. But anyway, in that system, between the pot where the liquid is being cooked, essentially boiled to steam off the alcohol, and the vessel that receives it, you have various designs of what's basically a tube from one to the other. And that the steam comes up and it cools down, it eventually turns back into liquid and it drips out. That's all distillation is. Now, fractional column distillation is very scientific, and it's collecting from different spaces in that tube, essentially, and it's going to give you alcohols at different levels of strength and purity. That's what's mainly used these days. But whether it's a primitive, like pot still, or it's a column fractional distillation still, or something in between, there's usually almost unless you're just specifically distilling brandy or whiskey, there's a little chamber. That's a good way to look at it. A little chamber that is specifically for aromatic herbs, or even some like cucumber and such. And that's for making gin. So in commercial gin making, there is usually this like chamber that the steam is essentially going through the herbs. That's fine if you want to do it that way. Medicinally speaking, it's really better to do an infusion because the herbs at that heat do give off different, well, essential oils, and they're much stronger. And depending on what you're using, that could be a little dangerous. So I actually prefer to make my own gin uh, with just vodka and berries that I picked off the tree. And I mean, I've shared it with friends and some that actually work in the liquor industry, and they're like, "This is fantastic. Where did you buy this?" I'm like, "Dude, I didn't buy it. It cost me like $5 for the vodka. Everything else was free." I mean, really, I mean, wow, and they're like blown away, and I'm like, oh, this is what we do. We're herbalists, and we get to have a little fun sometimes. But gin is really good for colds and flus, and it's a diuretic, and yeah, I mean, it's not just for sipping. But anyway, let's go back to ancient Rome. And Dioscorides said of juniper, some were bigger and some were smaller. It's true. The eastern Virginia red cedar, if you want to call it that, Juniperus virginiana, Juniperus, I think is actually how you're supposed to pronounce it. We're just going to call it juniper, for lack of a better term. It's the tree, all right? It's a tree form juniper. It's not one of those low ground covers. It has very small berries. These things are like BBs. They're tiny. And they're very flavorful, and that's really the one I like to use the most. Other junipers have big, big cones. I mean, size of blueberries, and you're going to get a lot more out of that, but they tend not to be as potent medicinally or as flavorful. So, they're all good, especially in a survival situation. Juniper is going to be one of the first things I look for. Like I said, you can't eat a lot of them, but they're so full of vitamin C and resins and calories from that dense resinous quality. Um, a little, teaspoonful of them is like a superfood. So, I mean, I don't turn up my nose at any juniper, but he said there were some even the size of a hazelnut. That must be a Greek variety of juniper because I've never seen a juniper berry or cone the size of a hazelnut. But my word, I'd like to have some, actually. He said that they're round, fragrant, sweet, and bitter, and they are. But they're sweet, they're bittersweet, and I mean, like chocolate. They're pretty darn good. Or like blueberries, really. But they have this piney quality. I mean, you're not going to mistake them for a berry, actually. He said it's mildly warming and astringent and good for the stomach, good taken in drink for infirmities, for the chest, for coughs, for gaseousness, as he put it, for griping, that's really stomach cramping, and the poisons of venomous creatures. And yes, juniper does find its way into many ancient remedies for poisoning. He said it is diuretic, and it is. Juniper's very diuretic. Good for convulsions and hernias and those who have congested or blocked wombs. Um, I don't even know how that would happen. I probably don't want to know. Anyway, um, let's see, where were we? It has sharp leaves. True, this is prickly. It's like an evergreen, coniferous. But the needles essentially could be made into a plaster or a poultice, and said also taken with a drink, you can make a tea out of it. Absolutely, the needles make a very nice tea, actually, very high in vitamin C. But he really liked to infuse them in wine, and he said in that form it was good for those bitten by vipers. Wow. The bark burned and rubbed on with water removes leprosy, but the dust of the wood kills. Okay. Apparently, you could poison yourself by mixing the sawdust of juniper with water and drinking it. I don't even know why you'd want to do that, but um, it's probably not quite as toxic as he said. But hey, I don't know. I don't have a juniper with cones or berries the size of hazelnuts. Maybe that one is. Anyway, he talks about the oil that could be made from it, and it has so many uses. Um, and that the Roman juniper was called a cypress, and cypress is another that you know. Um, Cypress is a different tree, and if you ever see the two side by side, you're not going to mistake them. But to some extent, the essential oil is a little interchangeable. Anyway, it was often used in ancient times well, as a disinfectant, certainly to keep bugs and rodents out of your clothes and such as that. But it was also used for skin diseases very much. It has uh, what's my word? Well, it's antiseptic, but there's another word I'm looking for. Anyway, used a lot for skin disorders, and to some extent still is. You'll sometimes see the essential oil of cedar in or one of its close relatives in salves and such. So you might even buy at the grocery store. It may be, in a lip balm or something. But in the ancient world, it was very, very, very popular. Dioscorides, who did I just read? Oh, yeah, that was Dioscorides as well. But he also gives a recipe in his book for juniper wine. And I gotta try this, but I mean, everything he made was in such quantities. I mean, and he said you could use cedar, juniper, cypress, bay, pine, or fir. And as you know, I have made a pine wine before. It was quite nice, actually, and very good for against viruses. And even allergies. It's just really pretty good if you don't mind drinking wine that tastes like pine sol. And, that did kind of get to me after a while, I have to admit. But anyway, he says, separate the newly cut wood when it gives out fruit. Lay it in a bath in the sun or near the fire so that it may sweat. And then mix 1 pound of this to 4.5 liters of wine. Mix it and leave it alone for 2 months. Then put in another jar and placed in the sun for a while, put it into smaller jars. So you make like a big batch, and then you're breaking it up into small, jars. And he says we must fill the jars of wines made by like this, because if we do not, they grow sour. So it has to be topped off. You can't leave it exposed to air. Nevertheless, these medicinal wines are unfit for the healthy. They are warming, urinary, and somewhat astringent, and that of bay is most warming. I'm sure it would be. Bay is all these are going to be diuretic. That's what he means is urinary. All these are warming. They're going to help with fever. And like again, it says cedar, juniper, cypress, bay, pine, fir. All of them are also a little bit toxic. And I would caution if you ever make this wine, use it medicinally. And I'm talking like by the tablespoonful to an ounce. Maybe 2 ounces at most to break a fever. To warm up on a cold day, there's nothing wrong with that. Anything like more than a glass is going to be really hard on your kidneys. Really not going to be good. Anyway, he said you could also make wine from the fruit of cedar, and on that one, mix 1/2 pound of bruised cedar berries to 4.5 liters of wine and keep it in the sun for 4 days. I like that idea better. I'm going to use, it's just like making gin, really. Except, we don't have to put it in the sun. But, yeah, that would probably be really good. He's also said you could use the needles and infuse the wine the same way. And actually, juniper beer has a long history of use. It was once the most popular of all beers in, like, Scandinavian countries, where they didn't grow a lot of barley. They would make almost a root beer out of spruce. And some craft brewers still do that, and that's a really healthy practice. And it has just long use. You basically make a strong tea with some sugar, strain everything out, put in a little yeast, and let it ferment, and then put in bottles and let it carbonate. It's super easy, super easy, and that actually is extremely healthy. Much better than anything you're going to get from, like, a can or a bottle at the grocery store. St. Hildegard von Bingen wrote, "The juniper is more hot than cold. Take its fruit and cook it in water. Strain this through a cloth. To this add honey and a bit of vinegar and licorice, and a little bit of ginger, or a little less ginger is what she said, then less ginger than the licorice. Cook it again. Place it in a little bag and make a spiced wine." Great combination. Ginger, licorice, juniper. Drink it often, she said, whether fasting or having eaten. It diminishes and mitigates the pain in the chest, lungs, or fever. Also take the green twigs and cook them in water, or make a tea, in other words. Make a sauna bath with the twigs and water. Often bathe in it, for it diminishes bad fevers in you. I mean, that's written in, 1080? And it's still, to this day, that's very, very valid. Gerard in the 1500s said that it was hot and dry in his system of medicine. He said, "The fruit of the juniper doth cleanse the liver and kidneys, as Galen testifieth. It also maketh thin and clammy gross it also maketh thin, clammy, and gross humors." Again, it's like thins mucus. That's all it means. Using counterpoisons and other medicines, being overly largely taken, though, it causeth gripings and gnawings of the stomach, and maketh the head hot. It neither bindeth nor looseth the belly. It doth provoketh urine. Wow. You gotta wonder why they taught that way. Dioscorides, we already covered him. He just quotes him. Good for gripings and coughs and windiness and those troubled with cramps. He said, it is most certain that the decoction of these berries is singular good against old cough, and against that which children are now and then extremely troubled, called the chin cough. You know what that is? You know what chin cough is? Whooping cough. So, yeah, he said it helped with whooping cough. It probably does, actually. It has some antiviral properties. It's also very expectorant and good for the lungs. He said, diverse in Bohemia, in other words, some people in Germany, do take instead of other drink the water wherein those berries have been steeped, and they live in wonderful good health. Probably very true. We're going to get into German use here in just a second. Father Nape loved juniper. Juniper is so associated with Father Nape and Father Kunzel. Anyway, he says good drunk against poisons and pestilence, fevers, and is not unpleasant in the drinking. Yeah. Oh, the smoke of the leaves. This is interesting. This is an old legend. I have not tried this. I would be interested to see if it works. The smoke of the leaves of juniper, it's the needles, driveth away serpents and all infections and corruptions of the air. It was used to fumigate, essentially, when somebody had been sick, but drives away serpents. I would like to see if that actually does the trick. I don't know. He said it was good against all contagious diseases, the juice of the leaves, with wine, drunk against the bitings of the viper. The ashes of the burnt bark being applied with water taketh away scurf and filth from the skin. That's actually psoriasis, so I haven't tried that either. I don't have psoriasis, but if you have psoriasis, tell me, do the ashes of the burned bark mixed with water help with psoriasis? I would be very curious to know that. Powder of the wood being inwardly taken is pernicious and deadly. So again, he's saying the sawdust of juniper, if you mix it with water and drink it, it's going to kill you. I, again, don't know why the heck you do that, but, anyway. Fume and smoke of the gum is good for phlegmatic humor. Again, that's like real heavy congestion. So it was often used as an incense, the gum of the tree. It killeth all manner of worms in the belly. It stayeth the menses. And that's interesting because many sources say that it actually brings on menstruation. He says it stops excessive menstrual bleeding. I don't know. Good for hemorrhoids. Good, commended against the spitting of blood. That's one of the reasons Father Nape had tuberculosis. So it was one of the herbs that he used to cure himself of that. So yeah, it's good against the spitting of the blood. It drieth hollow ulcers and filleth them in with flesh. Being mixed with roses, it healeth chops in the hand and feet. I don't know what chops are. Let's assume cuts. I don't know. He said there is made of this, combined with the oil of linseed, mixed together, a varnish, which is used to beautify pictures and tables. So, wow, hey, that's cool. I didn't know that. 100 years later, Culpeper, writing in much more plain language, he says the berries are hot to the third degree, but dry in the first. You don't need to know what that means. Nobody even, nobody knew at the time. I mean, it's one of those things herbalists say that it just means it's a little more astringent and warming than something else. Okay, it's archaic. But he says, good against the biting of venomous beasts. They provide, great resistor of pestilence. Again, drives off bugs and mice and all that. Provokes the urine exceedingly, and good for strangury. That's water retention, essentially slow or painful urination. Powerful remedy against dropsy. That's again water retention, and a lye made from the ashes of the wood, made into a drink, could cure dropsy. Now, we've just been warned against taking the sawdust. I don't know about the ashes. Let's say I'm not going to recommend that, obviously. And, it's edema. Dropsy is edema. So you have to say, what's causing this edema? Is it a heart condition? If so, you're not going to cure that through drinking the ashes of juniper. But you may urinate a lot and it may help resolve it for a time, but it's certainly not going to cure it. Provokes the terms. Now, not Parkinson. Oh, who would listen to? Gerard. Gerard said that it would stop menstrual bleeding. Now, Culpeper says it will bring on menses. So, again, there's a lot of conflicting information on that. Let's see. Strengthens the stomach exceedingly, expels the wind. There is scarcely a better remedy for wind than juniper. It is good for gaseousness, if you want to put it that way. You eat the berries on an empty stomach is what he recommended. Admirably good for the cough and shortness of breath and consumption. Pains in the belly, ruptures, cramps, and convulsions. They give safe and speedy delivery to women with children. They said that juniper berries could help induce labor. I'm not going to recommend that at all. Okay, I don't know if it works, first of all, but I certainly don't know if it's safe. Juniper's pretty strong stuff. It really is. The resins are pretty strong stuff. He says that they strengthen the brain. Is your brain weak? If so, get some juniper berries. He said they help the memory. I have no evidence of this, and I do eat them frequently. But then again, I'm obviously my memory's pretty good, or I couldn't do this podcast. Just what do you call it? Extemporaneously, just off the top of my head. I probably couldn't think of the word extemporaneously if I had a bad memory. They fortify the sight by strengthening the optic nerves. No idea. Seriously, I wear glasses. I've not known them to strengthen my sight, but who knows? Are excellent good in all sorts of agues or fevers. They help the gout and sciatica. They do. It's a good cure for, and when he's talking sciatica here, he's really talking more of a gout-caused sciatica. It's a blood cleanser, as they used to say. It's a lot of vitamin C in there, a lot of vitamin C, and that's what really helps against the gout and the inflammation such that. They strengthen the limbs of the body. The ashes of the wood is a speedy remedy for such who have scurvy. Again, we're talking vitamin C essentially, and I don't think the ashes would be the best thing to use. I think the berries would be better, and the needles after that. The berries stay all fluxes. That's diarrhea essentially. Helps with hemorrhoids or piles. Kills worms in children. A lye made of the ashes of the wood in the body bathed with it cures itch, scabs, and leprosy. Again, we're basically talking eczema and psoriasis. So, give that one a shot if you have such an issue. I'd like to know how well it works because I do get a lot of questions from people who have psoriasis and eczema. They're always, looking for a better cure than what the doctors can offer them. And we have a lot of herbs that we use, and a lot of the herbs are better. But I have not tried juniper for that use. And he says that the berries are break the stone, so good for kidney stones, urinary stones, procure the appetite, stimulate the appetite, and are excellent for all palsies and falling sickness. So more than likely it was the diuretic effect because a lot of water retention can actually cause seizures. And but I wouldn't think it would, you know, let's just say that's probably the use. I don't think it would help with epilepsy. I don't think it would help with anything more serious than fever and water retention. So now let's see where we go here. Let's go to the Irish tradition. John Kehoe said the berries provoke urine and cure old cough, flatulence, and colic pains. The gum of the tree expels worms from the body and stops excessive menstrual flow. Juniper is also an excellent herb to stimulate appetite and help the liver. It is a natural bitter, and just chewing and eating a few berries before a meal can be among the best helps in digestion for elderly and chronically ill people. Care should be taken not to overuse them in large amount that can irritate the kidneys. Juniper is also good for the immune system and cleaning the blood and a good spring tonic. Boy, John Kehoe knocked that one out of the park. He got all, in very short order, too. Now, Father Nape, as I said, is very much associated with juniper, and he wrote in My Water Cure, "Who does not know the juniper berry? Juniper, when used for fumigation, sends an agreeable odor through the rooms and passages and improves the air. I am no friend of the so-called fumigation with sugar and vinegar. I don't see how that would help anything," and he's probably right. But burning juniper was used essentially as an incense, and it has some antibacterial, really antiseptic properties. It can be good to, it has some antiviral, in other words, not just fungi and such, but anyway, bacteria. Anyway, he says if there's a question of disinfecting the room in which a patient is with an infectious disease or a corpse has been lying, or a time of infectious illness, to purify the air by fumigation, I always like juniper vapor. It thoroughly destroys all fungi and whatever the volatile infection and disease bringer may be called. Juniper works with similar effect upon the interior of the human organism. The berries fumigate, as it were, the stomach and mouth and ward off all contagion. Now, we have a little bit more advanced science now, and it doesn't get rid of everything, but it's certainly better than nothing. Juniper really is pretty good. It's not a, super disinfectant cure-all. It's not going to like get rid of an antibiotic and resistant infection spreading throughout a hospital, but it's why we use pine sol. There are antiseptic properties to these coniferous trees. Those who are nursing patients with serious illness as scarlet fever, smallpox, typhus, cholera, etc., and are exposed to the pathogen, should use juniper, in other words. Actually says they should chew a few juniper berries, 6 to 10 in a day, to keep from catching whatever the patient has. Yeah. And he says they burn up, as it were, the harmful miasmas, exhalations, where these seek to enter the mouth or nostril. Those who are suffering from a weak stomach may try the following little course with juniper berries, and this is what he's known for. This is Father Nape's Juniper Cure, and many people still swear by it to this day. My friend in Austria does this every year. I've done it myself. It's really good. Okay. The first day, they should begin with 4 berries. So you take 4 berries on day 1. The second day, 5 berries. And the third day, 6. The fourth, 7. And so increase by 1 berry every day until the 12th, on which they will take 15 berries. Then they may continue for 5 days longer, taking 1 berry less. I know many whose stomach filled with gases and thereby weakened has been purified and strengthened by this simple berry cure. Juniper berries have been noted since olden times as a remedy for stone and gravel and complaints of the kidneys and liver. Also, in all cases where foul gases, foul, watery, and slimy matter are to be removed from the body. I hope you never have that. I haven't. I hope I never do. But if I do, I'm going to give me some juniper berries. Not only the berries, but also the young shoots of juniper are made use of for tea in the first stages of dropsy, again, that's like edema. Also, water retention, one way or the other. And also as a purifying medicine. The oil is best bought from a chemist. We don't really use the oil much anymore. But the tincture can be made at home with wine, brandy, or spirits. So you can make a you can make a vinegar tincture of infusion, essentially, of juniper if you want to. Really very useful and easy to use. He said, I would not praise the father or mother of a family who were certainly very careful and diligent in preserving their meat and vegetables with berries from the juniper bush and were punctual. I would not, no, and were punctual and careful in fumigating their dwelling, but who allow their body, the dwelling of their soul, to lie in dirt and dust. They ought to apply such a fumigator for this much more important dwelling at least a few times a year. Okay, so juniper is very good for curing meat as well. It's a nice preservative, and people were using it almost like we would use pine sol today, but he's saying if you neglect its use for your health, he would not praise you. So you want Father Nape's praise, obviously. Brother Aloysius was his protege, and he was more of a professional herbalist. He wrote, the berries and young twigs are used medicinally. The berries principally have diaphoretic means helps break a fever, warming and wind-breaking properties, and promote digestion. They're especially good for gastric weakness accompanied by wind, accumulation of mucus, etc. They are also recommended as a protection from intermittent fever, rheumatism, gout pain. The young twigs mixed with woodruff and wild strawberry leaves make a delicious and healthy drink. I'm sure it would be good, which can take the place of tea and is certainly much healthier. Milk and sugar can be added according to taste. One of the preparations is juniper oil. Again, we're not going to get into that because it can be quite toxic. Any essential oil taken internally can be very dangerous, but in small amounts it was used, especially for rheumatism, gout, syphilis, chronic cough, and congestion in the chest. Also good for the kidneys and bladders and all that, but we're just going to stick with teas and tinctures because that's what we do as home herbalists. He says 3 tablespoons of berries ground into a powder and cooked with 2 tablespoons of lard is an excellent remedy for scurf in children. Scurf. It could be, well, really, that was a word that was used for anything from cradle cap to psoriatic dandruff. So anyway, the head was bathed with it, and was also used as a remedy for phlegm in the chest and coughs. 3 tablespoons juniper berry boiled in 2 cups of barley water, reduced by half, was especially good for the cough. Father Kunzel from Switzerland said the juniper, or rockholder, that's his old word for it, is a medicinal plant of the first rank. Everything about it is medicinal: the wood, the needles, the berries, and bark. It has the power to warm up, relieve internal cold, cleanse everything, whatever it can reach, the stomach, intestines, lungs, and blood, and is therefore used in almost all herbal mixtures except for hot diseases such as fever. But then we just read that it can help break a fever, so really it's darn useful for just about everything. He talks about various kinds of juniper, and the oil was really good for rheumatism, rubbed on as a liniment, or taking a bath. And really one of his favorite ways to use it was just take the boughs, the twigs, the needles, and put them in a hot bath. And that would help with arthritis and such, and various skin disease conditions. He said the green juniper twig should be boiled for 3 hours, and then added to the warm water. And the patient should take this warm water bath up to 10 times a day. So wow, that's a lot of bathing. He said, but this bath is very sharp and aggressive, and it's advisable to mix it with the fir tree or green pine tree decoction. So you mix in juniper and pine needles. And it's still used in modern times. I mean, Jelana Wittov and I wrote the English translation of Father Kunzel's book. Jelanta says, whenever I see junipers with berries, when I walk in the forest, I collect them, black and dark blue ones, and chew them with walking. So do I. It's really, I think, the best way. She said, I love them. They have a sweetish and aromatic taste, and I know they will strengthen my body and spirit. Absolutely. I'm going to try to wrap this one up. I think we covered most of the uses. Resources of Southern Fields and Forests talked about using the oil for swellings and pains of joints. Also as disinfectant for wounds. The berries, though, used for dropsy and all that. We've covered most of that. Let's see, King's American Dispensatory 1898 says, quotes a doctor saying he has cured several cases of, well, anyway, good diuretic. We don't need, also, but they were using it for gonorrhea as well. And again, that's that antiseptic, antimicrobial property. And, hmm, um, oh, they even have a recipe for a pomade. That's cool. Did you ever see our brother Art? They all remember when, when he walks in the store looking for his pomade. This place must be a geographical abnormality. It's exactly 2 days from everywhere else in the country. Man, he was Everett. I do not like the actor, but I love that character. I love that movie. I love everything the Coen brothers did. My gosh, they did some smart movies, and even King of the Hill. I love the Coen brothers, but anyway, Old Brother with Art, Where Art Thou? I mean, the music's fantastic. It's a classic. Anyway, but they have Howell's Juniper Pomade, made with an extract of juniper, lard, and oil. And it was not only used to style your hair, but was useful for all forms of eczema, uh, any kind of itching, inflamed vesicles, etc., scaly skin, even sore nipples, and it was a pomade. So it was your hair treatment. Um, let's see if there's anything I haven't covered. Rodale herb book says stimulating for the appetite, good for digestion, helpful in coughs, eliminate mucus, etc., etc. Oh, good for bites of poisonous insects, snake bites, dog bites, and stings. It has that astringent quality. It's soothing. Good for arthritis, bruises, ulcers, and wounds. Juniper poultices and rubs for that. Yeah, a handful of the needles in the bath water, good for sore and aching muscles. Absolutely. Says American Indians would tie bundles of the boughs to sore limbs. That would probably work. Probably not the best way of using it. I think a bath would work better than walking around with a stick tied to your arm. But hey, you do what you have to, I guess. Um, Sacred and Healing Herbal Beers. That's a really interesting book. Um, yeah, uh, much better. I was hesitant to buy. This is one of Buhner's books, and all his stuff's good. I was hesitant to buy it because I thought, yeah, that's kind of a ridiculous title, Sacred Beer. No, but he's got some really good herbal info in there, no doubt about it. And he gives a good juniper ale recipe. Um, he says, given the many benefits from the herb as a preservative, as a medicine, especially on nutrition and digestive health, as a potentially useful herb for the treatment of colds and flus, it seems an excellent herb to use in ales and beers. I already told you how to do it. You just make a sweet tea and ferment it, and it's quite tasty. Quite, quite tasty. Really good, especially in the winter, because it does have that, well, what I told you, cold pepper, talking about it's hot in the third degree. It's warming. It really does have that quality. And Peterson Field Guide says American Indians use the fruit for colds, worms, rheumatisms, coughs, to induce sweating, chewed the fruit for canker sores, leaf smoke or steam inhaled for colds, bronchitis, purification, and rheumatism, and said to contain the anti-tumor compound. Let's see if I can pronounce this. Podophylotoxin. I think it's right. Also in mayapple, and much easier to take than mayapple. Let's see, botany in a day. Well, let's see, if juniper, it also talks about cedar, it talks about cypress, it talks about arborvitae. Anyway, he says, but specifically of red cedar, juniper berries can be eaten raw or used in tea. Bitter berries are the main ingredient in gin. Yep. Juniper berries contain volatile oils and resins and are eaten as a carminative to expel gas, and distilled oil is rubbed on painful joints. Additionally, juniper berries are diuretic and may irritate the kidneys with prolonged use. They are not recommended for pregnant women. Let's make that clear. Anything that kills worms should not be taken while pregnant. Boiled tea of the fruits is used for the treatment for cough. You may be able to decrease the risk of catching a virus by keeping juniper berries in the mouth while around others who are infected. So still even in modern use. That's all, Father Nape's advice. Juniper berry needles can be added to a bathwater for rheumatism. We'll wrap it up here with Physician's Desk reference for herbal medicine. The Doctor's Book. Thing weighs 7 pounds. It's huge. Um, Juniper has been primarily noted for its anti-inflammatory, diuretic, and dyspeptic effects because of its ability to inhibit cyclooxygenase. It is useful in inflammatory conditions such as arthritis. Juniper is used to treat chronic urinary, bladder, and kidney infections as well as herpes and flu. The diuretic effect is probably primarily due to the volatile oil terpene 4. In addition, the drug works to lower blood pressure and may regulate hyperglycemia. That's high blood sugar. In animal experience, a hypertensive and anti-exudative effect was proved. In vitro, an antiviral effect was also demonstrated. So, juniper, pretty ubiquitous. You're going to spot it just about everywhere. Um, One of our most useful medicinal herbs, without a doubt, and you're not going to find many herbalists who are making juniper preparations, which is insane. I mean, really, every single herbalist should be making juniper tinctures and have dried juniper around for teas and all that, and baths, and very few even know about its properties. That's really why the first book, I guess, what was my first herb book? Well, it was that collaboration with Jelanta to do Herbs and Weeds of Father Kunzel. But the first one I wrote on my own was medicinal trees. And most herbalists just don't recognize the medicinal power of common trees. They think of herbs as little green plants. Well, herbs can also be great big trees. And they're some of our strongest, most effective, and easiest to access herbs, medicinal herbs. I mean, you've got trees in your backyard. Every single one of those trees, unless it's poisonous, and even some of those, have a medicinal use. And I mean, I don't know. I just don't know why people overlook the herbal use of trees. I mean, if there's so many. I mean, if you got diarrhea, oak bark is going to help probably quicker than anything. I mean, you don't even need to bother with something else. If you're bleeding, pine pitch, um, yeah. But anyway, cedar, juniper, actually, that's what I meant to say. Juniper is really one of our best herbs, and it needs to be on your shelf if you don't have it in your yard. And if you have it in your yard, eat the berries and enjoy them because they are real nice. And I'm telling you, next time you have something meat that's a little gamey or fatty, fatty piece of pork, maybe a deer roast, whatever you got, a few juniper berries in there, man, that's good. Ooh, juniper berries in your sauerkraut with sausages, just fantastic, fantastic. Really, really love that. So, y'all, have a great week. Please do subscribe to my YouTube channel. Share it, watch it. If you can help me out, I appreciate it. Facebook, I'm done with them. I remember when they kicked me off like 4 or 5 years ago. I was so angry. And I got over it, and they invited me back on, and now they've kicked me off again for apparently no reason this time. I'm done with them, and I hope you are too. Um, you know, for all its flaws, Twitter is at least a place where you can have a conversation with people. Facebook is dead. I mean, it's basically MySpace still hanging on, and they, I mean, they ought to be trying to attract users, not kick us off their platform for no reason, because it's not going to be around much longer as bad as it's gotten. Anyway, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel. Buy my books and tell your friends about my podcasts and my articles and all that. I got to put food on the table just like everybody else, and I always appreciate every single one of you who buys one of my books, who subscribes to my Substack newsletter, who I find out you've listened to my podcast. I say a prayer for every single one of you. Always remember that. This is not just a one-way street. I'm not just putting information out there for you to consume. I also like I said, I say prayers for all of you. And, if you've ever emailed me before, I get back promptly to answer your questions about herbs or anything else. And because I really appreciate y'all. I mean, I do. You make it possible for me to do this, and I never take it for granted. Not ever. All right, anyway, y'all, have a good one. Tom Tillis is finally out of office. Woo! And I'll talk to you next time. Uh, I mean, this is like the last of my political enemies. I used to work in politics. Used to have a lot of political enemies. He was like the last jackass still in office. And, don't ever think that politicians don't keep a list of who's crossed them and who hasn't. He did, as well. I'm not going to accuse him of anything specifically, but let's just say there were politicians who once tried to destroy me by taking away my income and even threatening my life. I'm not saying he was among them, but they're all now out of office, amazingly. Isn't that something? All right, y'all. Have a good one. I'll talk to you next time.
The information in this podcast is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease or condition. Nothing I say or write has been evaluated or approved by the FDA. I'm not a doctor. The U.S. government does not recognize the practice of herbal medicine, and there is no governing body regulating herbalists. Therefore, I'm really just a guy who studies herbs. I'm not offering any advice. I won't even claim that anything I write or say is accurate or true. I can tell you what herbs have been traditionally used for. I can tell you my own experience and if I believe an herb has helped me. I cannot nor would I tell you to do the same. If you use an herb anyone recommends, you are treating yourself. You take full responsibility for your health. Humans are individuals and no two are identical. What works for me may not work for you. You may have an allergy, a sensitivity, an underlying condition that no one else even shares and you don't even know about. Be careful with your health. By continuing to listen to my podcast or read my blog, you agree to be responsible for yourself, for your own research, make your own choices, and not to blame me for anything ever.